Imagine this. You've made it through decades of life. You've raised kids, worked hard, sacrificed more than anyone knows. And now, finally, you've reached a chapter where peace should be non-negotiable, where your time, your energy, your presence should be respected, not exploited. But just when you start to breathe, just when you try to rest, someone shows up. A child, a sibling, a friend, with a request, a favor, a responsibility that was never yours to begin with, and you, with a heart that always says yes, you listen, you carry it, because that's who you've always been. But deep down, something feels off, heavy, unfair. Let's be honest. At this stage of life, you are not here to rescue everyone. You are not anyone's lifeguard, nurse, or emotional punching bag. You are not here to keep the boat afloat while others poke holes in it. This is your time. And yet, people still ask things of you they should never ask. Things that drain your peace, steal your time, and chip away at everything you've worked so hard to build. Have you ever felt like an emotional ATM? Like someone only reaches out when they want something? Not because they care how you are, but because they know you'll say yes. In this video, we're going to say what others won't. We're going to talk about the 5 kinds of requests you should no longer accept, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because the longer you keep saying yes to what isn't yours, the more you disappear in the process. And the truth is simple. Peace is not selfish. Boundaries are not cruelty. And saying no doesn't make you unloving. It makes you awake. So stay with us until the end. Because these 5 things, they may seem small, but they can cost you your health, your joy, your sanity, and your future. This is the sign you've been waiting for. To reclaim your energy, to stop carrying what was never yours, and to finally say, I love you, but I love myself too. Let's begin. 1. Taking responsibility for what isn't yours. Let's talk about a weight that looks like love, but feels like a slow form of self-erasure. It starts with one favor, then another, then a problem that wasn't yours, but somehow ends up in your hands. You tell yourself, it's just this once. But deep down, you know the truth. You've been here before. They come with their stories, their stress, their emergencies. And you, the one who always shows up, you step in, you fix, you rescue. But at what cost? They say, you're so strong. You're the only one I can count on. But what they really mean is, I don't want to deal with this, so you do it. And because you've always cared, because it's easier to carry the weight than to say no, you accept it, again and again, until your own peace starts to crack, until your back aches from burdens that were never yours to carry, until your own needs become whispers beneath the noise of everyone else's demands. Here's the truth. Responsibility is sacred, but only when it's yours. Taking on what doesn't belong to you, that's not noble. That's not loving. That's how you disappear in the lives of others, while your own life sits on hold. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And you've been the one helping them avoid it. You've been the one carrying what they refuse to face. You've been the nurse when they needed healing, the counselor when they needed accountability, the bridge when they burned everything behind them. But you are not a replacement for someone else's growth. You are not here to fix what they keep breaking. And the moment you start to feel like a lifeline, pulled, stretched, fraying, that's when you know. This is not love. This is use. You've done enough. You've given your time, your strength, your patience. But giving endlessly is not a virtue. It's a slow death of the self. So the next time someone brings you their crisis, ask yourself, is this mine to solve? Or am I just the easiest person to hand it to? You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to be the one who always fixes everything. And saying no doesn't make you hard or cold. It means you finally know the difference between support and sacrifice. Let them carry what's theirs. Let them grow by doing what you've done 1,000 times already. Face it, feel it, fix it, because the moment you stop carrying what isn't yours, You finally make space for the one person who's been ignored the longest. You. 2. Lending money without real need. You're finally enjoying your quiet, or a slow morning, a warm drink, a moment to yourself. Then the phone rings. It's someone you know, someone close, a child, a sibling, a friend you haven't heard from in months. And the second you answer, you already know. They're not calling to ask how you're doing. They're calling because they want something. And it's not advice, it's money. At first you think, maybe they really need it. But deep down, it's familiar, too familiar. It starts with small words. It's, just this once. I'll pay you back. You're the only one I can count on. But you've heard that before. And every time it ends the same way. You giving, them disappearing, and your peace getting more expensive each time. Here's the truth. Lending money without real need is not generosity. It's self-neglect. Because what they're really asking isn't for a few bills. They're asking you to put their life before your own. To risk your savings, your stability, your calm, so they can avoid taking responsibility. And what do you get in return? Silence, distance, maybe even blame. When you finally say no, they'll say, if you loved me, you'd help. But ask yourself, would someone who truly loves you put you in that position? Would they risk your well-being to save their comfort? Lending money when it's not a true emergency is like handing over the keys to your peace and hoping they don't wreck it, but they do. Not because they're evil, but because they know you'll say yes. Because you've always said yes. Because they count on your guilt more than your boundaries. And the moment you say no, you become the villain in a story you never agreed to be in. But the truth is, you were never meant to be the bank, the backup plan, the fixer of poor. Choices. You worked too hard for this peace. You earned the right to rest, to spend your money on your joy, your needs, your future, not to patch holes in someone else's sinking boat. They made their choices. And it's not your job to clean up the mess. Because money isn't just money. It's time, it's energy, it's security. And once it's gone, it doesn't just take numbers from your account. It takes pieces of your soul. So the next time someone calls you with a small request, pause. Ask yourself, will I sleep peacefully after saying yes? Or will I feel used? Again, you are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for saying no. You are wise. You are awake. And you know that love without respect isn't love at all. Let them figure it out. Let them rise like you did. With grit, not handouts. Because if they only show up when they need something, they're not family. They're takers in disguise, and you've given enough. 3. Measuring love through sacrifice. They say, if you really loved me, you'd do this. If you cared, you'd sacrifice that. And just like that, your love becomes a test, not a connection, a performance. Suddenly, love isn't about understanding. It's about how much you can give up. Your time, your energy, your values, even your dreams. They don't ask you to love them. They ask you to prove it, again and again, by giving up pieces of yourself. And you've done it. You've skipped what mattered to you. You've said yes when you meant no. You've stayed silent to avoid conflict. You've tolerated what hurt you just to keep the peace. But let's call it what it is. That's not love. That's emotional blackmail. Wrapped in affection. Carl Jung once said, where love rules, there is no will to power. True love doesn't demand proof. It offers presence. It builds. It doesn't break. It makes space. It doesn't shrink it. So why does this keep happening? Because some people confuse love with control. And they've learned that guilt works better than force. They don't shout. They sigh. They say, I guess I just don't matter to you. And suddenly, you feel like the selfish one for simply protecting yourself. But here's the truth. Anyone who asks you to sacrifice your peace, your health, or your joy to prove love doesn't understand love. They understand need. They understand dependency, but not love. Love doesn't ask you to bleed just to prove your heart still beats. It doesn't require you to lose yourself to be enough for someone else. You've already done your part. You've bent, stretched, and endured. And if that's still not enough, then it never will be. Love is not a scoreboard. You don't win by giving more. You win by being seen, fully, freely as you are. So the next time someone says, "If you loved me, you would," ask yourself, would someone who loves me want me to hurt myself for their comfort? This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. Clear about the fact that sacrifice is sacred, but only when it's chosen, not coerced. You don't owe your exhaustion to prove loyalty. You don't need to carry pain to show devotion, because real love, the kind that heals, not harms, never asks you to disappear to feel safe. So say this out loud if you need to. My love is not something to be earned through suffering. It's not a prize. It's not a test. It's not a burden. And anyone who treats it that way doesn't deserve it. You are allowed to love without losing yourself, and you are allowed to walk away from anyone who confuses sacrifice with sincerity. 4. Changing who you are to please others. It starts with a comment. You shouldn't wear that. You still listen to that kind of music? You're too old to talk like that. And suddenly who you are, your habits, your preferences, your history becomes a problem for someone else, not because it hurts them, but because it doesn't fit their version of who you should be. They say it softly. They wrap it in concern. But what they're really asking is, could you stop being you so I feel more comfortable? And if you're not careful, you start to shift. Little by little, you change how you speak. You stop wearing what you love. You stay quiet when something lights you up, just to keep the peace. But at what cost? There's a kind of grief that comes from betraying yourself, from shrinking just enough to be accepted, from replacing authenticity with approval. And here's the thing no one tells you. If you have to become someone else to be loved, that love isn't real. This isn't about growth. Growth honors who you are. This is about erasure, and you feel it. That quiet ache that says, I'm still here, but nobody sees me anymore. Before we go further, if this feels too familiar, and you've been carrying the weight of expectations that aren't yours, you might want to explore the Jung method. It's a deep but simple approach to reconnecting with your authentic self. You'll find the link pinned in the first comment. Now back to it. You are not here to be remade. You are not a blank canvas for others to redraw. You are a story, rich, layered, lived, and your story deserves to be respected, not rewritten. They say, just change a little. Don't be so stuck in your ways. But they forget one thing. Those ways are your foundation. They come from experience, from pain you survived, from values you chose, not trends you copied. And yet, they keep pushing, trying to bend you into something they can understand, something they can approve of, something safe. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone a watered-down version of yourself. You don't have to shrink so others feel tall. You don't have to dim your joy to avoid being too much. Because if being fully yourself is a problem, then maybe the problem was never you. So next time someone tries to correct your expression, your style, your life, remember, you've earned the right to live on your terms. You don't need permission to be real, and you don't need to apologize for becoming who you are. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them judge. Because while they adjust their opinions, you'll still be standing whole, intact, unmoved. 5. Prioritizing others' emotions over your own. It starts with a phrase. Don't upset them. Just do it to keep the peace. You're the bigger person. Let it go. And before you know it, you're living in emotional silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because someone else's comfort became more important than your truth. Every time you put their feelings above your own, you disappear a little more. You say yes, even when your body says no. You smile, even when your spirit feels tired. You nod when you should have spoken up, because somewhere along the way, you were taught that love means self-abandonment, that to keep others happy, you must sacrifice your peace. But here's what no one told you: that's not love. That's emotional servitude, and it leaves you hollow. You stop asking for what you need. You stop feeling safe in your own choices, because their disappointment starts to feel more dangerous than your unhappiness. And the worst part? They get used to it. They begin to expect your silence, to count on your compliance, to treat your boundaries like suggestions, not limits. And slowly your life becomes about managing their reactions instead of honoring your own feelings. But here's the truth. You're not here to carry emotions that don't belong to you. You are not here to regulate someone else's storm while yours goes ignored. It's not your job to make them okay with your decisions. It's not your duty to soften your truth so they feel comfortable. Carl Jung once said that what you don't make conscious will control your life, and you'll call it fate. How many times have you silenced yourself thinking it was the right thing to do, when really, it was just fear? Fear of conflict, fear of being seen as difficult, fear of being misunderstood. But every time you choose their feelings over your own truth, you send yourself the message that you don't matter, that your voice is secondary, that your joy is optional. And that lie, it's deadly, slowly, quietly, invisibly. You are allowed to disappoint people. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose yourself, especially when it's hard. Because if someone truly loves you, they'll want you to be full, not empty. Honest, not agreeable. Free, not controlled. So the next time someone says, "If you really care, you'll do this for me," ask yourself, and who will care for me if I keep caring for everyone else but myself? This isn't selfishness. This is self-respect. This is what it looks like to finally come home to your own heart. Because love without boundaries is not love. It's survival. And you weren't born to survive others. You were born to live your truth. You've said yes 1,000 times. You've carried more than you should. You've given quietly, sacrificed silently, and put others first, even when it cost you pieces of yourself. But today, that cycle ends. Because now you see it. You see the pattern, the way people ask with smiles, but take with no limits. The way love is used as a tool, to guilt, to manipulate, to drain. But you're done calling that love. This isn't bitterness. It's clarity. It's the moment when you finally say, "My peace matters, my voice matters, and I matter." Even when I say no, you weren't born to fix everyone else's life. You weren't put here to shrink, to bend, to bleed quietly. You're here to live, fully, freely, and without apology. So if any part of this resonated with you, if you felt like the words were echoing your own story, then let this be your turning point. Drop a comment below with the word "enough." Just that, one word, and I'll know you're ready to reclaim your voice, to protect your peace, and to stop carrying what was never yours to begin with. You've given so much. Now it's your turn. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.